today in this first session, thematic session, we would be discussing promoting global maritime cooperation. I think one good thing that we found in this particular conference yesterday was that there was by and large a unanimity that the global community needs to come up together, cooperate, and ensure a rule-based international order for managing the maritime global commons. So today we have this session, thematic sessions. I know many of you didn't get adequate time yesterday to ask questions, to offer comments. So this is going to be a fairly interactive session. We hope to provide you adequate time to ask questions and offer comments. We have 3 distinguished speakers speaking in this particular session, and in keeping with the theme of the session, which says promoting global maritime cooperation, we have an international lot of speakers representing 3 important countries, 2 of the major powers who are present in the Indian Ocean region, and of course South Korea, another country with deep interest in this particular region. So without wasting much time, I'll request Ambassador Marc Abensour, who is the Ambassador of France for Indo-Pacific region, and I hope when it comes to France, the Indo-Pacific is same as we consider, because for United States, where we are sitting is not a part of the Indo-Pacific. So I'll now request Ambassador Marc to kindly address the audience next 15 minutes.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a great honor and great pleasure for me to participate for the second time to the Indian Ocean Conference. And let me first express, my deep appreciation to the Omanese authorities and to the India Foundation for their invitation, and also for the excellent organization of this conference. Let me start by first saying that the Indian Ocean is really at the core of the French strategy for the Indo-Pacific. As you know, we have a strong presence in the Indian Ocean through the French territories in the southwest of the Indian Ocean. So La Réunion and Mayotte. And overall, it's over 1.1 million citizens living in that part of the Indian Ocean, and it's over 30% of the French EEZ. It's, as you know, we have also our French forces who are based on a permanent basis there in La Réunion and Mayotte. So it's the French forces for the southwest of the Indian Ocean, and we have also great position forces in the UAE and in Djibouti. And overall, these forces can contribute to the regional security and the regional stability. So clearly, and I think it was said yesterday very clearly, the Indian Ocean is a strategic region of a growing importance, facing a series of challenges. The strategic competition between great players, which is increasing, and we may face in the future also increased bipolarization, including within the Indian Ocean. We are also facing a transnational threat, surge of piracy again in this part of the world, but also all kinds of illicit activities. And I would also mention the illegal fishing, and also the risk of uncontrolled escalation and tension. And I'm thinking, for instance, of the current situation in the Red Sea. I will add to this, due to the situation in the Red Sea, a redirection of the maritime traffic, and now using increasingly the Mozambique Canal, which also brings new risk, for instance, of marine pollution. So, in this context, France supports the development of a regional maritime security architecture, and I will try, as the minister from Kenya recommended yesterday, to be as concrete as possible, because he said what is the most urgently needed now is implementation. So I will bring you through concrete initiatives and concrete projects that France has been developing across the Indian Ocean at the national level with our partners, and also through the regional multilateral organizations, and also at the EU level. So at the national level, I have already mentioned our presence in the French overseas territories and how we use them to project our expertise and to engage further the neighboring countries. And in the coming weeks, we will have an opportunity to do this with the French President's visit to the Indian Ocean next April. He will visit Madagascar and attend the Indian Ocean Commission Summit, and also visit Maurice and La Réunion. And most likely, I mean, that should be the opportunity to announce some new initiatives, in particular in the field of maritime security. And we are at the moment working to set up what is called the Indian Ocean Academy, based in La Réunion. And part of this academy will be specifically dedicated to maritime security, to provide training to the neighboring countries, to also create a community of people in charge of maritime security in the southwest of the Indian Ocean, and sharing best practices and sharing the doctrine of the action of state action at sea. And so how to work out synergies between the navies, the Coast Guard, Customs, and so on. And so I think that this visit by our president in the southwest of the Indian Ocean will also highlight, I mean, the new importance given to islands. You may remember that in 2023 he visited South Pacific, he visited Vanuatu for the first time, Papua New Guinea. He also sees this opportunity to visit Sri Lanka. And so I think that overall, over the last years, you see that islands have taken a very specific strategic importance in our approach. With our partners, let me mention that in addition, I mean, to actions from our territories and with our preposition forces in the UAE and Djibouti, we also carry out regular deployments of our Navy assets and our Air Force, contributing to maritime security and safety, and enforcing illustrating our shared commitment to freedom of navigation and freedom of overflight. And this is the case right now with what is called the Clemenceau 25 campaign, with the deployment of the French air carrier strike group. It was engaged last January with India in joint exercises to increase interoperability. You may have heard of the the large-scale exercises that we carry out every year with India, Varuna with the Indian Navy and Garuda with the Indian Air Force. And this time it was also the opportunity to engage in a multinational joint exercises called NAPERUS 25, end of January, with 9 nations from the Indo-Pacific. I won't mention all of them, but Australia, US, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and others, and to train together to secure the strategic maritime line in the straits between the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. And so these joint exercises took place in the Straits of Malacca, Sunda, and Lombok. And the objective was to strengthen our maritime safety through training together to intervene on ships suspected of illicit activity. So I could mention many other joint exercises engaged with countries from the Indian Ocean. Let me mention the exercise with Oman. There was a French frigate also calling to port in Oman early February to participate to the exercise called Eui-hae. In addition to this deployment on a regular basis, we have also launched recently a joint endeavor with Sri Lanka, setting up a school together, which is a regional center for maritime security, based in Colombo for the academic part, and in Tricomale for the technical part and training. And this school has a regional dimension and will also interact with the Indian Ocean Academy based in La Réunion that I have just mentioned. And we hope that this project will gather also contribution from all the different partners from the Indian Ocean and more broadly from the Indo-Pacific. And let me also add another format which is relevant to our project on maritime security. These are the two trilateral formats between France, India, and Emirates, and France, India, and Australia. And there is clearly within that format a focus also on maritime security. So, national with partners. Now let me briefly mention what we are doing through the regional multilateral organization. First, the Indian Ocean Commission. As you know, within the IOC, there are two centers for maritime domain awareness, one based in Madagascar and the other in Seychelles. And we want to build on the existing two centers for maritime domain awareness, and we think that could be the opportunity to extend the action of IOC beyond the IOC countries, but also to reach out to African countries on the eastern coast of Africa, and in particular Mozambique, Tanzania, and also Kenya. And this is part of what is called Safe Seas Africa project, which is how to extend the existing maritime security project within IOC to a broader range of activities. And France will contribute to that with the support of the French forces based in La Réunion. Another very relevant regional organization to us is IORA. So as you know, we became a full-fledged member in 2020. Since then, we were very proactive within IORA. Last year, we decided to increase 3 times our financial contribution, so to reach 3 million now euros, in addition to 1 million for dedicated specifically to blue economy. And we team up with partners from IORA on specific projects. With Indonesia, for the adoption of guidelines on how to fight illegal fishing together, and we hope that these guidelines will be adopted by the next ministerial meeting of IORA next May. On HADR activities with Madagascar, and we can also tap on the center based in La Réunion called PIROA, which is a center for civil protection with the regional dimension, and also working with Seychelles on how to fight marine plastic pollution. And we will organize an event in Bangkok next March, specifically on maritime, how to protect marine environment. We have, there is also this working group on maritime security led by India and Australia, and we think that we can also usefully contribute to this. Let me just mention also another important organization to us. It's IONS, the Indian Ocean Naval Symposium. We had the chairmanship in 22-23, and we want to remain very proactive within that format. At the EU level, let me mention that, and to oversimplify things, basically you have the operation in the northwest of the Indian Ocean, and to contribute to maritime security from the Suez Canal to the Hormuz Straits. You have ASPIDES, and we will continue to play a key role for the freedom of navigation in the Red Sea. Here I emphasize the fact that it is a strictly defensive mission to ensure the protection of vessels cruising through the Red Sea and aiming at de-escalation of the current tension. But I could also mention Atalanta. We broadened the mandate of Atalanta now, not fighting only against piracy, but also all kinds of trafficking. And I would also mention Abensour to protect the maritime flows through the Hormuz Straits. Let me also mention that in addition to the Centers on Maritime Domain Awareness, the EU has also developed a program called Crimario for info sharing based on the platform IORIS. And we think it's very important to ensure interoperability with already existing other systems or platform, such as the US system, CVision, or the Indian system called Nisha. And within Crimario, you have a program to ensure interoperability between all already existing systems and to connect all the different IFC, the one in Delhi, the one in Singapore, the one in Vanuatu. So I will just stop there. My point is that, as you have seen, there are many actors, many initiatives, many programs. What is the crux of the matter is how to improve coordination between all the different stakeholders on maritime security. And to conclude, let me mention two important events. First, the EU Indo-Pacific Ministerial Forum, to mention that it will, for the fourth edition, will take place mid-December this year, and for the first time we will have a summit in Poland under the Polish presidency. We want to use this format to concentrate on concrete cooperation, and clearly maritime security is one of the focus. And last but not least, the UN Conference on the Oceans that will take place next June in Nice. We hope that you will all participate at the highest level. We also work for key deliverables for the Ocean Conference, and this is why yesterday many mentioned the ratification of BBNJ, and we think this should be a key deliverable. This will be the opportunity to showcase how the importance of the Indian Ocean, and there will be, and also the importance of IOC and IORA activities, and so there will be a workshop during the Nice conference on fight against illegal fishing that we will co-organize with Indonesia. And there is also, in the perspective of the Nice conference on the ocean, a workshop that will take place in Perth next April, the 10th and 11th. And we are very pleased that the IORA section will participate. It will be 2 days workshop on how to protect the environment, the marine environment. So I hope that there will be a very large participation also to this event. Thank you very much for your attention.
He did highlight what all France is doing to enhance the maritime cooperation in Indian Ocean region, besides, of course, contributing to IORA, for which they have become a member in 2020. India and France have been in the forefront, collaborating in many maritime exercises, enhancing the maritime domain awareness and various other things. Second speaker comes from Republic of Korea, is Eui-hae Cecilia Chung. She is a special representative of the Korean government for Indo-Pacific. She has been in the field of diplomacy for quite some time. She has been focusing on maritime security and regional partnerships. She has extensive experience in international relations and policy coordinations. So let's take 15 minutes and delve on the subject.
Good morning, everyone. It's really nice to be here. I would like to thank the India Foundation and the government of Oman for their wonderful hospitality and welcoming all of us here today. I'm really happy to be here because for the Korean government, I think we have been a little bit of a latecomer in recognizing the potential of partnership that we can form with the Indian Ocean region. Today, I would like to share with you what our focus is under the rubric of our Indo-Pacific strategy on how we view the importance of the Indian Ocean and the region, and what sort of baby steps we're taking and what we plan to do in the future, especially in the area of maritime domain awareness and countering the climate change repercussions in the maritime sector. So let me start with how we view the Indian Ocean. Well, if you look at the map of Korea, you will realize that we are surrounded on three sides by water. But in actuality, due to our neighbor in the north, we're basically an island. And so we have focused on the importance of oceans, and we view the Indian and Pacific Oceans as twin engines of economic prosperity and stability. And I know there's a vast space between the two oceans, but I really feel that the Indian and Pacific Oceans should not be seen as completely separate spaces, but as a single interconnected domain where interests of not just seafaring or coastal states converge, but where the destinies and survival of the nations around it are really closely intertwined. Concerningly, the Indian and Pacific Oceans are becoming a theater of power, competition, and strategic maneuvers. Maritime security is not just about naval strength, it is about technological dominance and economic resilience, as we have all seen in the past few years. And what we really need is a foresight to form strategic partnerships. Strategic partnerships have to be strengthened not just among the major maritime powers, but among all countries that have a stake in ensuring peace, prosperity, and stability in the vast maritime domain that we all share, and that's all of us. In this vein, I'll share with you some of the things that Korea is doing to contribute to this common endeavor within the framework of our Indo-Pacific strategy. The Indo-Pacific strategy, which we launched at the end of 2022, it signaled our readiness as a Northeast Asian country to look beyond the confines of East Asia and expand its diplomatic outreach and focus to the wider Indo-Pacific region. It's a very comprehensive strategy, and we have three guiding principles. They are inclusiveness, trust, and reciprocity. And it extends to the maritime domain. Lately, we have adopted what we call the itemized approach, ITEM, and it stands for institutionalization, tailoring, expanding, and prioritizing the maritime domain. You'll notice that maritime domain has been singled out because as a export-driven trading nation, maritime security is incredibly important to Korea for its survival. We recognize that the Indian Ocean is a vital maritime corridor connecting Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. And we're in the process of forging stronger maritime cooperation with this region's partners. If you look at the statistics, when I say we're an export-driven economy, I'm not exaggerating. 70% of our total exports and 67% of its imports are with the Indo-Pacific region. And 90% of our maritime trade traverses the Taiwan Strait and the South China Sea. And when we come closer to the Indian Ocean, over a third of all our trade volume transits the Indian Ocean. So this is an incredibly important area, and we have now begun to really see the region with a more strategic eye. So, needless to say, the stability and openness of the Indo-Indian and the Pacific Ocean and its maritime routes are indispensable to our economic prosperity and security. And this is a reason that we have really focused on the maritime domain awareness as a key component in our Indo-Pacific strategy. The comprehensive maritime domain awareness is really essential for addressing a host of issues that everybody talked about yesterday. And I was really struck with the depth and the breadth of issues that face us in the maritime awareness domain. Piracy, illegal fishing, smuggling, and all these environmental issues. We are actively participating in information sharing initiatives through the Indo-Pacific Partnership for Maritime Domain Awareness. And we are exploring the usefulness of establishing an information fusion center in the Northwest Pacific. That's where we think we are, Northwest Pacific. And to cover the Northeast Asia and to fill the current geographical gap in the information fusion centers in Singapore and India. So we would like to network with these existing centers by installing another fusion center to cover Northeast Asia. Combating piracy and ensuring navigational safety is an important initiative for us as well. And we've been partnering with the European Union and the regional partners. We have been deploying a naval unit called the Chung unit since 2009 to protect the vital shipping lanes in the Gulf of Aden. This unit cooperates with EU's coordinated maritime presence and combined maritime forces to enhance regional security. Strengthening maritime enforcement, what does that mean? I think it's a really vital tool to ensure that our oceans are kept free, open, and safe. And in order to do that, we all need to understand the rules and share a commitment to a rules-based maritime order. We're committed to upholding a rules-based maritime order under UNCLOS. And one important way we're translating this commitment to action is by helping enhance law enforcement capacity in our partnering countries, most notably the ASEAN, but other countries as well. This includes refurbishing decommissioned naval vessels for transfer to countries like the Philippines, Vietnam, Bangladesh, and Timor-Leste. And we're conducting joint training programs on terrorism, counter-piracy, and search and rescue operations with friends like the Philippines, Indonesia, and Thailand. Here you will see an overwhelming focus with our ASEAN partners. We have bilateral economic relations with the ASEAN countries that are very important, and we hope to branch out toward more regional partners in the Indian Ocean region as well. Another very important challenge is addressing climate change in the maritime sector. And I believe we can do a lot of things. Korea promises eco-friendly shipping practices, renewable energy projects, and marine biodiversity conservation. But what I would like to really focus on here is the fact that we are really looking into green shipping initiatives to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050, focusing on eco-friendly technologies, infrastructure, and seeking international cooperation in these fields. We have very ambitious goals. We are working toward 100% eco-friendly fleet by 2050. All outward bound domestic vessels, including over 800 vessels, over 5,000 tons, will transition to eco-friendly fuels. We're also developing green corridors with countries like the US, starting with routes between Korea's Busan and Tacoma Port in Seattle. This includes deploying zero-carbon ships and supporting related infrastructure. And ports will also have to be transitioned to zero-emission operations by converting equipment to low-emission engines and improving fuel energy efficiency. We are also investing heavily in research and development for green ship technologies, including pilot projects for LNG ammonia propulsion ships and retrofitting existing fleets so they can be utilized. As you know, Korea is a major shipbuilder, and we account for 35% of the world's market share. So we have considerable expertise in constructing high-tech, fuel-efficient, and environmentally sustainable vessels. And we can support modernization of regional fleets, strengthening maritime trade and security. And by fostering shipbuilding partnerships and supporting the development of green shipping solutions, we aim to enhance the resilience and sustainability of maritime infrastructure across the Indian Ocean. I hope that we can, over the next few years, we can really delve into looking for partnerships in the region to ensure that the Indian region, the Indian Ocean, remains a hub of economic prosperity and connectivity. So what are we doing in terms of really cooperating with the regional bodies around the Indian Ocean? As I said before, we are in the initial stages of forging partnerships, and we are really stepping up our engagement through existing mechanisms, like the IORA. We have become a member in 2018, and we have been co-hosting the annual ROK IORA Partnership Seminar since 2020. And through these efforts, we hope that we can explore and identify potential joint initiatives among IORA's priority areas. We have also established the ROK Indian Ocean Cooperation Fund in 2023, and we will utilize this fund for the implementation of blue economy projects in the region. On global cooperation, the Korean government is currently preparing to host the 19th Our Ocean Conference, as well as the APEC Ministerial Meeting on Ocean Economy. We are hosting the APEC Summit in November in Gyeongju of Korea, and this will be an integral part of the whole process. So my conclusion is that although we have arrived a bit late on the scene on cooperating in the Indian Ocean, I think we share a vision for a maritime partnership that is mutually beneficial and enduring. And we are navigating a host of challenges, as we have heard from the various speakers yesterday, but I hope that we will remember that these challenges also present us with opportunities if we can harness our respective strengths that we can offer to each other. Let me end by reiterating the Korean government's strong commitment to being a reliable partner in fostering peace, stability, and prosperity across the Indian Ocean region. Thank you again for having me.
For giving us the Korean government's commitment to be a reliable partner, fostering peace and prosperity in the Indian Ocean region. Final speaker for the session is my good friend David Santoro, who is the CEO of Pacific Forum, a US-based think tank specializing in Indo-Pacific security and strategic affairs. He's an expert in nuclear policy and international security frameworks. And I'll request him to address the audience and specify whether they still consider this part as part of the Indo-Pacific or outside the Indo-Pacific, and then probably address you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me begin by thanking you, my fellow panelists, and of course the India Foundation and our fantastic host here in Muscat, Oman. This is my second time attending the Indian Ocean Conference. Delighted to be here. This is my first time in Oman as well, and I got here very, very late last night, around midnight, so I haven't seen much yet. I hope to be able to see a little bit of the country as well after the conference. Distinguished guests, as our chair mentioned, my name is David Santoro, and I'm president and CEO of the Pacific Forum, Honolulu-based Pacific Forum, which is a foreign policy think tank that focuses primarily on Indo-Pacific security and strategy. So I am from a US organization, but I do not represent the US government and the US and any of the US the views of the current administration. So the views here are really mine only. So the theme for this panel is promoting global maritime cooperation. And as I was thinking about what I would say here, I thought I'd remain at a very, the most general level, and that's to try and give it a framework and which hopefully will be useful as we transition into the discussion. So I'll be making 3 points, and I'll be quick again because I think we'll benefit from having a discussion instead of just giving presentations. I will try to be concrete and also prescriptive. I will argue that to successfully promote global maritime cooperation, we should, number one, embrace a holistic strategic approach to the maritime domain. Number two, focus on acting as problem solvers. And number three, behave as committed partners. And so I'll go through each of these points in turn. So first, I think that promoting global maritime cooperation begins with the adoption of a holistic strategic approach to the maritime domain. And very simple, that's because the oceans are connected, naturally connected. And yet, despite all this, we have a tendency to regard them in silos as separate entities. And frankly, we do the same for world regions. We look at them in isolation, sometimes in artificial constructs. And that's a problem. I think it's always been a problem, but I think it's even more of a problem today as the world is increasingly interconnected. I just completed a big conference last week in Honolulu focused on defense and deterrence issues. And one of the key findings was that we, at least in the United States, can no longer look at the Indo-Pacific and the Euro-Atlantic as two distinct theaters or areas of responsibility. We need to consider them as part of a whole, and we need to pay attention to both. I think it's the same thing in the maritime domain, in that promoting global maritime cooperation requires a holistic strategic approach. And again, we are not doing that today, at least in the United States. We talk about and do maritime cooperation differently depending on where we are. Even worse, in the United States, we don't even have an appreciation of the Indian Ocean as a whole. And this is, Chair, the point that you were making earlier. In the United States, we split the Indian Ocean into several bureaus in the US Department of State and in several commands in the US Department of Defense. And then, unlike most countries, the United States doesn't even include the Western Indian Ocean in its conceptualization of the Indo-Pacific. And so I don't think this is very conducive to promoting cooperation in this region, let alone at the broader global level. And so that needs to change. So that's my first point. We need to have a more holistic strategic approach to the maritime domain. Point number two, I think that to successfully promote global maritime cooperation, we need a commitment to problem solving. Quite simply, cooperation is more likely to emerge if the purpose of cooperation is addressing, or even better, solving problems, in particular problems that many countries are facing at the same time. Now, in this era of strategic competition, the United States could very well be tempted to seek a form of cooperation that singularly focuses on countering its competitors. It's not clear to me that it would work, in that I don't think that such cooperation could emerge, and I would argue that even if it did, it's unclear that it would have the expected outcomes or results. I think it's a lot more productive to focus on fixing problems faced by most countries. This is how cooperation is more likely to emerge. If the focus is, for instance, on helping countries build capacity, conduct joint exercises, and especially respond to non-traditional security threats, we're more likely to make progress. And that can include fighting nefarious non-state actors, fighting all forms of illicit trafficking, fighting illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing, or even fighting the threat of climate change. So this is my second point. Let's focus on problem solving. Third and finally, I think that partnerships are absolutely essential. Not one country can, and for that matter should, be the main and lead actor everywhere. And so that means that some countries will do more in one area and others more in other areas. So I've long been arguing, for instance, that the United States does a lot in the Pacific Ocean and much less in the Indian Ocean. We can increase what we're doing in the Indian Ocean. But I think we should also acknowledge that, for instance, India can do a lot and does a lot in the Indian Ocean, and will always do a lot more in the Indian Ocean than the United States. India wants to increase its presence in the Pacific, that's fine, but it will also probably do a lot less than the United States, and we need to leverage those comparative advantages. There are many other partnerships that I believe the United States should strengthen. So Australia is one, France is another, there are many others. And Ambassador Abensour, as you mentioned, we can't do anything without partners. I think we can do a lot more with partners. And I think this is the point that probably should emerge as a key finding of that conference. We need to actually focus a lot more on this, including in the United States. Again, valuing partner differences is a good thing. We need to look at that as in a good and positive light as the basis of strong and equal partnerships. And again, at least in US-India relations, I think we should welcome leadership from the United States in the Pacific and leadership from India in the Indian Ocean. Acting as committed partners in a way that uses the comparative advantages of everyone is essential, because it will not only facilitate cooperation, but it would also help better address or solve problems. And this is an echo to my second point about us focusing on problem solving. So this is my short pitch for today. Again, promoting global maritime cooperation requires first and foremost countries to adopt a holistic strategic approach to the maritime domain. It requires them to act as problem solvers, and it requires them to behave as committed partners. I'll stop here and look forward to your questions and to the discussions. Thank you.